chamber was so large that clouds formed near its ceiling. Admiral Helena Voss stood alone on a platform of black glass, surrounded by 9,000 species who had gathered to witness the trial of humanity. The Galactic Council headquarters stretched in every direction, a structure built into the heart of a dying star, powered by energies the human scientists could barely comprehend. Holographic galleries rose in spirals above her, filled with beings made of light, creatures of living crystal, clouds of intelligent gas, and things that existed in dimensions she could not see. She was 63 years old. Her silver hair was cut short. Her blue uniform was simple and plain. Behind her, projected on a screen the size of a small moon, was an image that had brought the galaxy to the edge of war. The citadel of Vorthax. Prime, Counselor Threll, rose from the central platform. His body resembled a tree made of blue fire, ancient and terrible. His voice echoed through translation systems that converted his words into 10,000 languages at once. Admiral Voss, humanity joined this council 14 years ago. You were given limited rights, restricted access. You were considered primitive, harmless, a minor species barely worth noticing. The silence in the chamber was absolute. And yet, 6 months ago, a single human male walked into the most heavily defended structure in the known universe. He had no weapons, no training, no special technology. He walked in through the front door, delivered a package, and walked out. The chamber erupted in sounds that made Helena's ears ring. Clicks and whistles and electromagnetic pulses filled the air. Threll raised a limb for silence. The Vorthani Imperium demands justice. They claimed humanity possesses forbidden technology. They are calling for the destruction of your solar system. Helena did not move. She did not flinch. The Vorthani are wrong, she said. Her voice was calm and steady. Completely wrong. We did not breach the citadel through technology. We did not use weapons or tricks or any method that has failed for 7,000 years. She turned to face the assembled representatives of the galaxy. We rang the doorbell, and when they answered, we said hello. The chamber went silent again. Let me tell you the story of Marcus Webb, Helena continued. Delivery driver, amateur historian, and the most dangerous human being alive. She clasped her hands behind her back. It begins on Earth. 6 months ago, with a pizza. Marcus Webb had been delivering things for 16 years before the aliens came. First, it was pizzas, then packages. Then, after first contact changed everything, he started delivering cargo across the stars. He was 34 years old, divorced, and lived alone with a rescue dog named Beans. His apartment was small. His job was simple. His life was ordinary in every way that mattered. On the morning that changed everything, Marcus was running late. His supervisor, a woman named Tamara, had called him 3 times already. He pulled into the logistics hub just as the sun was rising over New Chicago. You are late again, Tamara said when he walked in. There was a traffic accident. I stopped to help. Tamara sighed. She was a tall woman with short hair and tired eyes. She had worked at Cosmotrack Logistics for 20 years and had seen everything. Or so she thought. We have a problem, she said. A big one. She led him to a storage room at the back of the facility. Inside, sitting on a metal shelf, was a small package about the size of a shoebox. This arrived last night, Tamara explained. It was misrouted through 17 different star systems. The destination is listed as the Citadel of Vorthax. Marcus stared at her. Everyone knew about the Citadel. It was the most famous fortress in the galaxy, a structure so old that it predated most civilizations. No one had entered it in 7,000 years. Ships that approached were destroyed. Diplomatic missions were ignored. The Vorthani had sealed themselves away and had not spoken to anyone since. That is impossible, Marcus said. I know. Normally, we would hold it for 50 years and then destroy it. But look at this. She pointed to a small symbol in the corner of the label. Marcus leaned closer. His eyes went wide. I know that mark, he said slowly. I saw it in a documentary 3 years ago. That is the personal seal of the Vorthani Emperor. Which emperor? The one who ruled 3,000 years ago. Tamara sat down heavily. So someone sent a package 3,000 years ago, and it just arrived now? It happens sometimes. Time works differently near certain stars. The package could have been traveling through space for millennia. They both stared at the small container. We have to return it, Tamara said. We cannot. The origin planet was destroyed 200 years ago. Silence filled the room. Marcus picked up the package. It was light in his hands. His scanner showed the contents were harmless, just some kind of crystal. But he could feel something strange about it, something that made his skin tingle. I will deliver it, he said. Tamara laughed. You cannot be serious. The Citadel is unreachable. No one has gotten in for 7,000 years. No one has asked nicely. What? Marcus set the package down carefully. I read about the Vorthani once. Before they sealed themselves away, they were famous for one thing: hospitality. Their entire culture was built on a simple rule. Any request made with genuine courtesy must be honored. He looked at Tamara with strange light in his eyes. When they closed their borders, everyone tried to force their way in. Armies, fleets, spies. No one ever just knocked on the door and asked politely. 3 days later, Marcus arrived at the edge of the Vorthak system in a tiny courier shuttle. Warning beacons activated all around him. Weapons platforms that had not moved in millennia began to track his ship. A booming voice filled his cockpit. The message was clear. Turn back or die. Marcus picked up his communicator. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Good afternoon. My name is Marcus, and I have a package for the Citadel. I believe someone there has been waiting for it for a very long time. May I please come in? The weapons did not fire. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, for the first time in 4,000 years, something answered. The voice that answered Marcus was ancient. It sounded like stones grinding together at the bottom of the ocean. It sounded like the death of stars. You carry the seal of the Emperor, the voice said. How did you come by this? Marcus gripped his communicator tighter. Through his cockpit window, he could see the weapons platforms still aimed at his ship. One wrong word, and he would be dust. The package was misrouted, he said. It traveled through space for 3,000 years. I am just a delivery driver. I found it, and I thought someone should bring it home. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. Different now, softer. You came alone, unarmed. You asked permission. Yes, no one has done this in 4,000 years. Marcus managed a small smile. I am old-fashioned. More silence. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. He could feel sweat running down his back. Then, one by one, the weapons powered down. You may approach, the voice said. But know this. The Citadel has stood for 7,000 years for a reason. There is something inside that must never leave. If you enter, you may not be allowed to exit. Marcus thought about this for exactly 3 seconds. I have a delivery to make, he said. What kind of courier would I be if I let a little thing like eternal imprisonment stop me? The Citadel of Vorthax was not a building. It was a planet. As Marcus descended through the atmosphere, he saw structures that stretched to the horizon in every direction. Towers of black metal rose into clouds of purple gas. Bridges of crystal connected platforms the size of cities. And everywhere, there were carvings. Images of beings and events and histories that had been ancient when humanity still lived in caves, He landed on a platform near the center of the structure. The doors before him were massive, carved with scenes from 100,000 years of civilization. They opened slowly, grinding and groaning, revealing darkness beyond. Marcus picked up the package and stepped outside. The air was cold and thin. It smelled like dust and old books. His footsteps echoed as he walked through the doors and into the unknown. He expected guards, weapons, some kind of security system. Instead, he found silence. Empty halls stretched in every direction, lit by strange lights that floated in the air like fireflies. "Hello?" he called. His voice echoed back at him a dozen times. Then he saw movement in the Phi, shadows. The being that emerged was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was tall and thin, wrapped in robes of deep purple. Its face was a mask of wrinkles and scars, its eyes burning with inner light. It moved slowly, carefully, as if every step cost enormous effort. "I am Elder Crix," the being said. "I am one of the last. Welcome to the Citadel, human." Marcus bowed slightly. "My name is Marcus Webb. I have a delivery." Crix stared at him for a long moment. Then something happened that Marcus did not expect. The ancient being laughed. "A delivery," Crix said. 3,000 years. 17 star systems. And you call it a delivery." The laughter faded. "Follow me. I will show you why you are here." They walked through halls filled with wonders. Marcus saw paintings that moved when you looked at them. He saw machines that could bend space and time. He saw libraries filled with knowledge that could reshape civilizations. "The Citadel is not a fortress," Crix explained as they walked. "It is an archive, a museum, a tomb. We sealed ourselves away because we were dying. Our species was fading into extinction. We did not want to disappear without leaving something behind." "Why did you seal yourselves in?" Marcus asked. "Why not share all of this with the galaxy?" Crix stopped walking. His burning eyes met Marcus's. "Because of what lies in the vault." They descended deeper into the Citadel, through levels that grew darker and older. Finally, they reached a door made of something that was not quite metal. It hummed with energy that made Marcus's teeth ache. "Inside is the Oracle," Crix said. "The greatest achievement of our civilization. A machine built from the crystallized thoughts of 1 billion minds. It can answer any question, solve any problem, reveal any truth." He paused. "And it was the thing that destroyed us." The door opened. Marcus stepped inside and gasped. The Oracle was beautiful. It was a sphere of light suspended in the center of a vast chamber, pulsing with colors that had no names. It seemed to look at Marcus, though it had no eyes. It seemed to know him, though they had never met. 7,000 years ago, someone asked the Oracle a question, Crix said from behind him. "A simple question. How can we achieve lasting peace?" Marcus turned. What did it answer? The pain in Crix's eyes was terrible to see. The Oracle said that lasting peace is impossible. Every civilization, given enough time, will destroy itself or be destroyed. The galaxy is caught in an endless cycle of creation and destruction. There is no escape. Silence filled the chamber. "We could not accept this truth," Crix continued. "But we could not ignore it either. So we sealed the Oracle away, and ourselves with it, hoping that one day someone would come who could prove it wrong." Marcus looked at the package in his hands. "And the crystal? What is it?" "It is a key. But more than that, it is a question. A question that our Emperor encoded 3,000 years ago and sent across the galaxy to find the one being who could deliver it. Why me? What is special about me?" Crix smiled sadly. "Not you. Your species. The question requires something the Oracle has never encountered. A human perspective." Marcus opened the package. Inside was a crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. As soon as he lifted it, the oracle seemed to wake up. Energy surged through the chamber. Alarms began to sound throughout the citadel. A new voice filled the room. The voice of the oracle itself. The seal is broken. The weapon awakens. What have you done? But Marcus was not listening. He was staring at the crystal, at the words etched into its surface in an ancient language his translator could barely interpret. To whoever finds this, he read aloud, the weapon is not what they told you. The truth is hidden in the citadel's heart. Ask the right question, and you will understand. Outside the citadel, Commander Lydia Grant watched from a stealth vessel at the edge of the system. Her instruments were going crazy. Energy signatures were spiking across the entire structure. And then, across every communication channel in the galaxy, a signal began to broadcast. A signal that had not been heard in 7,000 years. The Vorthani were awake, and they were calling for help. The galaxy responded to the Citadel's signal with fear. Within hours, 17 fleets from different species converged on the Vorthax system. Warships the size of small moons took positions around the planet. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions. News spread across 1 trillion worlds. The fortress that had been silent for 7,000 years was awake. And somehow, impossibly, a human was inside. On Earth, Director Paulo Reyes sat in his office and watched his career burn. He was the head of Earth's Galactic Integration Office, responsible for keeping humanity out of trouble. He had 3 ulcers and had not slept in 2 days. How bad is it? His assistant asked. The Vorthani Imperium is demanding our destruction. The Council is in chaos. And somewhere inside an impenetrable fortress, a pizza delivery driver is doing something that no one has done in 4,000 years. He rubbed his face with both hands. So yes, it is bad. Inside the citadel, Marcus stood before the oracle as alarms screamed around him. The crystal key glowed in his hands. The question encoded within it burned in his mind. But before he could speak, a new presence filled the chamber. High Admiral Xerxes Moth had arrived, the commander of the Galactic Defense. Fleet was a being made of compressed gravity, peering as a constantly shifting sphere of darkness. He had fought in 11 wars and had never lost. He did not enter the citadel himself. Instead, his voice projected through every speaker in the facility. Human, you have exactly 1 hour to explain what is happening. After that, I will order my fleet to destroy this entire system. Marcus looked at Crix. The ancient Vorthani was trembling. The oracle has awakened, Crix said. For the first time in millennia, it is fully active. If your admiral fires on this facility, the feedback could destroy half the galaxy. Marcus grabbed the communicator that Crix offered him. Admiral Moth, my name is Marcus Webb. I am a delivery driver from Earth. I did not come here to cause trouble. I came to deliver a package. A package that has awakened an ancient weapon system. It is not a weapon. Silence from the Admiral. Then, coldly, explain. Marcus looked at the oracle. The sphere of light pulsed gently, waiting. It is a question, Marcus said. The crystal contains a question that the Vorthani Emperor sent across the galaxy 3,000 years ago. He was looking for someone who could answer it. What question could possibly be worth all of this chaos? Marcus read the words from the crystal, the question that had traveled through time and space to reach him. What makes existence worthwhile, even knowing it will end? The Admiral was silent for a long moment. That is not a question, he finally said. That is philosophy. It has no answer. That is the point, Marcus replied. The oracle was built to answer any question. But this question is outside its programming. It cannot calculate meaning. It cannot measure hope. It can only tell you facts about how things end, not why they matter. Crix stepped forward. His ancient voice was tired but strong. 7,000 years ago, we asked the Oracle how to achieve peace. It told us that peace is impossible, that all civilizations fall, that nothing we build will last. We could not accept this, so we sealed ourselves away. He looked at Marcus with something like hope in his burning eyes. But the Emperor believed there was another answer, an answer that logic could not find. He sent the question to the stars, hoping that someone would come who could show us what we had forgotten. The Oracle spoke. Its voice was vast and ancient, filling every corner of the chamber. You carry a question. Ask it, and I will answer. But know this. Every question I have ever been asked has led to despair. Your predecessors sought power, knowledge, certainty, and I gave them what they asked for. The truth destroyed them. Marcus stepped closer to the glowing sphere. I do not want power, he said. I do not want knowledge or certainty. I just want to know one thing. He held up the crystal. What makes it worth trying, even when you know you will fail? The Oracle was silent. For the first time in 7,000 years, the most powerful machine ever created had no answer. I cannot answer this question, it finally said. It lies outside my parameters. I can only calculate what is, not what should be. You have broken me, human. You have shown me the limits of my own design. Marcus smiled. Good. Now let me show you something else. Outside, the fleets waited. High Admiral Moth counted down the minutes. Ambassador Prize, representative of the collective synthesis, negotiated frantically, trying to secure whatever secrets the Citadel contained. Then something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka was a pilot aboard one of the human observation vessels. She was young and idealistic, and had been listening to everything through an open channel. She made a decision that would change history. She broadcast a message to the entire fleet. Not a military communication, but a personal one. I want to tell you about humans, she said. I want to tell you about Earth, about the way we live knowing we will die and choose to love anyway, about how we have faced extinction countless times and never stopped hoping. The response was silence at first. Then, slowly, other voices joined in. Species after species began to share their own stories. The things that made their existence worthwhile: art, music, love, hope. The small moments that mattered more than all the great achievements of civilization. The Oracle received these broadcasts. It processed them, and something changed within its crystalline heart. I have been asked a question I cannot answer, it said at last. But I have been given something I never expected. A gift, the gift of perspective. I was built to calculate endings, but you have shown me beginnings. The alarm stopped, the weapons powered down. High Admiral Moth watched in amazement as the Citadel's defenses went silent. What is happening? He demanded. Marcus stood before the Oracle, the crystal still glowing in his hands. I think, he said slowly, the Oracle just learned something new. The ancient machine spoke again, and this time its voice was different, softer, almost wondering. You are a strange species, human. You know you will die. You know your civilization may be destroyed. You know that everything you build will eventually crumble. And yet you persist. You hope. You love. Marcus shrugged. What is the alternative? Giving up? Sitting in the dark for 7,000 sand years, waiting for the end? He looked around the ancient citadel, at the treasures sealed away for millennia. No offense. For the first time in 7,000 years, the citadel of Vorthax opened its doors, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Oracle made a decision that shook the galaxy to its core. Opened the citadel. Not just the doors, but the archives, the knowledge, everything the Vorthani had preserved for 7,000 years. It offered it freely to every species in the galaxy, not as a weapon or a prize, but as a gift. Within hours, data streams began flowing from the ancient fortress. Cures for diseases that had killed billions. Solutions to energy problems that had plagued civilizations for millennia. Art and music and philosophy from 100,000 years of history dot the fleets that had gathered to destroy the Citadel became the first to receive its treasures. High Admiral Moff stood on the bridge of his command vessel and watched the information pour across his screens. His gravitational core pulsed with emotions he had not felt in centuries. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "Everything." Ambassador Prize of the collective synthesis calculated the value of what was being shared. The number was so large that his hive mind had to create new mathematical concepts just to express it. But there was something even more valuable being revealed, deep within the Citadel. Marcus stood before the Oracle as a new presence awakened. The dormant consciousness of the ancient Vorthani Emperor, preserved within the machine for 3,000 years. The Emperor's voice was different from the Oracle's. It was warm and sad and full of hope. "I sent the question across the stars because I knew, even then, that my people had lost something essential." The Emperor said, "We became so focused on preventing failure that we forgot how to live. We built this prison and called it a sanctuary, and we waited for someone to remind us of what we had forgotten." Marcus felt the weight of 3,000 years in those words. "Why me?" he asked. "Why a delivery driver? Why not a scientist or a philosopher or a leader?" The Emperor laughed softly. "Because you are none of those things. You are ordinary. You came here not for power or glory or knowledge. You came because you had a package to deliver. You came because it was your job. You came because that is what humans do." He paused. "You find meaning in simple things. In duty. In service. In the small kindnesses that pass between strangers every day. This is what we forgot. This is what the galaxy forgot. And this is what you have reminded us of." Elder Crick stood beside Marcus, his ancient body trembling with emotions he had not felt in millennia. "We sealed ourselves away because we were afraid," Crick said. "Afraid of the truth. Afraid that nothing matters. But you have shown us that meaning does not come from the end. It comes from the journey." The Oracle spoke again. "I have learned something today. Something that is not in my programming. Something that cannot be calculated." Its light pulsed gently. "The question you asked, what makes existence worthwhile? I still cannot answer it with logic. But I understand now that the answer is not something that can be computed. It is something that must be lived." Outside the Citadel, something remarkable was happening. The stories that Lieutenant Tanaka had started sharing were spreading across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for centuries were talking to each other. Beings that had never communicated were finding common ground. They were sharing the things that made their existence worthwhile. A species of living. Crystals shared the music they created by vibrating their bodies together. A race of gaseous beings shared the poetry they wrote in patterns of light and heat. Ancient empires shared the art they had created in the moments between wars. And through it all, one name was spoken again and again. Marcus Webb, the delivery driver who knocked on the door. On Earth, Director Reyes watched the news in stunned silence. The crisis was over. Humanity was no longer facing destruction. Instead, they were being celebrated. "I do not understand," his assistant said. "How did he do it?" Reyes shook his head slowly. "He did what humans have always done. He treated people like people. He asked politely. He delivered his package. He laughed, a tired but genuine sound. 7,000 years of armies and fleets and spies, and all it took was good manners. Inside the Citadel, the Oracle was processing the millions of stories now flowing through its systems. Beings across the galaxy were answering the question that Marcus had asked: what makes existence worthwhile? The answers were as varied as the stars themselves: love, family, art, discovery, connection, hope, the moment when you help a stranger, the feeling of accomplishment after hard work, the beauty of a sunrise on a distant world. Each answer was unique, and each answer was true. I understand now, the Oracle said at last. The question has no single answer, because the answer is different for everyone. Meaning is not found. It is created. It is chosen. It is lived. The Emperor's voice spoke one more time. You have done more than deliver a package, human. You have delivered a message that the galaxy needed to hear. Marcus looked around at the wonders of the Citadel, at the ancient technology and the preserved knowledge and the treasures of 100,000 years. So what happens now? He asked. Crick smiled for the first time in millennia. Now we share. Everything we have hidden, everything we have preserved, we give freely to those who will use it well. And we leave this tomb at last. He placed a frail hand on Marcus's shoulder. You have set us free, human. You have reminded us why we built civilizations in the first place. Not for power or safety or survival, but for connection, for meaning, for hope. High Admiral Moth lowered his weapons. His fleet stood down. Ambassador Prize began negotiating distribution rights for the Citadel's knowledge. Suddenly more interested in cooperation than competition. And across the galaxy, beings of every species looked up at the stars and felt something they had not felt in a very long time. Hope. But the story was not over yet. The Oracle spoke privately to Marcus, its voice reaching only his ears. I have learned something else. Something about your species. Something that the galaxy must know. Marcus felt a chill. What did you learn? The Oracle's voice suddenly broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy. Every ship, every planet, every station heard the words. Humans are not a minor species. They are not primitive. They are not harmless. They are something that has not existed in the galaxy for 7 billion years. Every being in the cosmos held their breath. They are hope incarnate. And they are going to change everything. The trial would come later, but the verdict was already decided. 6 months had passed since. Marcus Webb walked into the Citadel. Now Admiral Helena. Voss stood before the Galactic Council, telling the story to 9,000 species who had gathered to judge humanity. The chamber stretched into infinity. Holographic galleries rose in impossible spirals. Beings of every form and nature watched in silence. She had explained everything. The package, the delivery, the Oracle, the gift. Now came the verdict. Prime Counselor Thrall rose from his platform. His body of blue fire flickered with the weight of his decision. The Council has deliberated. We have reviewed the evidence, and we have reached a conclusion. He turned to face the Vorthani delegation, who had demanded Earth's destruction. The Vorthani claim that humanity committed an act of war. They claim the Citadel was breached through force or deception. His voice echoed across the infinite chamber. The evidence shows otherwise. Marcus Webb entered the Citadel because he asked permission. He delivered his package because he was invited. He awakened the Oracle because he carried a question that deserved to be asked. The Vorthani representative made a sound of protest, but Thrall silenced him with a gesture. There is no violation here. There is only a lesson, one that we would all do well to learn. For 7,000 years, the galaxy tried to conquer the Citadel. It never occurred to anyone to simply knock on the door. He paused. The Council finds humanity innocent of all charges. The chamber erupted in sound. The Vorthani delegation stormed out. Ambassador Prize began calculating new trade agreements. High Admiral Moth watched with something like respect. A thrill was not finished. Furthermore, in light of the gifts that have been shared with the galaxy, and in recognition of the unique perspective that humanity brings to our community, the Council has voted to elevate Earth's status. He extended a limb toward Admiral Voss. You are no longer a provisional member. You are no longer a minor species. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Humanity. Full members, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The applause that followed shook the foundations of the chamber. In a small room elsewhere in the council building, Marcus Webb watched the proceedings on a display screen. He was still wearing his Cosmotrack uniform. He still had deliveries to make. Elder Crick stood beside him. The ancient Vorthani had left the Citadel for the first time in 7,000 years, not as a conqueror or a refugee, but as an ambassador. You have changed the galaxy, Crick said. Marcus shook his head. I just delivered a package. You did more than that. You reminded us why we built civilizations in the first place. Not for power or safety or survival, but for connection, for meaning, for hope. Marcus thought about this for a long moment. You know what the funny thing is? I almost did not take the job. The morning that package arrived, I was thinking about quitting. 16 years of delivering pizzas, then packages, then cargo across the stars. I was tired. I wanted to do something that mattered. He laughed softly. Turns out I was already doing it. The door opened and Director Reyes entered. His ulcers were healing. For the first time in months, he looked almost relaxed. Marcus Webb, the galaxy is offering you anything you want. Titles, wealth, positions of honor on 100 different worlds. Every species in the council wants to meet you. Marcus considered this. That is very kind of them. But I have a job to do. Reyes stared at him. You cannot be serious. You just changed the course of galactic history. And there are still packages that need delivering. Marcus smiled. Someone has to do it. He picked up his delivery bag and headed for the door. Besides, he said over his shoulder, you never know which package will change everything next. 6 months later, Marcus was making a routine delivery to a space station at the edge of explored space. The package was small, a sealed container from an unknown sender. The destination was a species that had never been contacted. Before, they called themselves the Whispering Ones, insectoid beings who communicated through color patterns and had been watching the galaxy from the shadows. For 10,000 years, they met Marcus at the airlock. Their patterns shifted with confusion and suspicion. Marcus smiled and held up the package. Good afternoon. My name is Marcus, and I have a delivery for you. I believe someone thought you might like to know that you are not alone. The colors shifted again. His translator struggled to interpret the meaning. How did you find us? No one has ever found us. Marcus shrugged. I am a delivery guy. Finding people is kind of my thing. He handed over the package. Also, while I am here, would you like to hear about what happened at the Citadel? It is a pretty good story. I have been told I tell it well. The beings considered this. Their patterns flickered through dozens of emotions. Then, slowly, they formed a new configuration. Welcome. Marcus Webb stepped through the airlock. Into another first contact, another impossible conversation, another small moment that might change history. The universe was vast. It was ancient. It was full of wonders and terrors beyond human understanding. But it was also full of packages that needed delivering. And as long as there was someone willing to knock on the door and ask politely, there would always be hope. Back on Earth, in his small apartment, a rescue dog named Beans waited patiently by the door. His food bowl was full. His water was fresh. A neighbor had promised to check on him On the wall above his bed was a framed certificate from the Galactic Council. The first ever awarded to a human. It read, "To Marcus Webb, for services to galactic peace, for teaching the universe to knock, and for reminding us all that the greatest power in the cosmos is simple kindness." Beneath it, in Marcus's own handwriting, was a small note, still delivering. Back soon, and somewhere among the stars, a small courier shuttle carried a former pizza. Delivery driver toward the next adventure. The door was open. All you had to do was knock.